Hi you guys. So I just thought that I would do a really quick video and why not put my Christmas tree in, right? So my 3-year-old is sleeping, so I want to do a really quick video for you guys on this painting that I just finished and get it up. And I might do some more detailed videos because I really think there were a lot of successes in this painting. But this painting is of a golden retriever, and it's a commission. It was an 11 by 14, and I had a beautiful reference photo, so that really helped. If you guys have any questions, please leave questions in the comments. I love to hear what you guys are thinking. What can I do to improve the video? And I will definitely get back to you if you post some questions in the comments, or if you're watching, just say hi. I'd love to hear from you. So for this background, this dog had a lot of cute little wispies, so I really wanted to play that up. And so I chose to do a loose background and do a lot of negative painting for the first layer of the background behind the dog. So like I often do, I wet around the whole animal and leave little wispies using negative painting, but just with clear water. And then I go back in and drop watercolor into the pool of water that I've left. And it's not really a pool, it's just kind of damp by the time that I get to putting the paint in. And I used a combination of Winsor Violet, which is a great color that's so versatile, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna for the background. And that made a very beautiful grayed down purplish tone. Why did I choose purple for this yellow dog? Well, purple is the complement of yellow, so a grayish purple is really going to make that yellow dog pop. So that's why I chose a grayish purple loose background, and that's why I did such a simple background, because I really wanted to play up the wispies of the yellow dog. So it's a very nice contrast between the light yellow dog and the darkish purple background. So that's my thinking behind the background. So, all right, so a lot of this painting is going to be of me putting in the dog's fur. So let's talk a little bit about that. What colors did I use for the dog? I used quinacridone gold, and I also used burnt sienna mixed into that sometimes when I needed it to be a little bit cooler. And if I needed it even cooler, I would put in some Winsor Violet. And for the very darkest parts of the fur, to show real depth between pieces of fur, for example, I put in extra Winsor Violet this time, and it really worked well. And it really tied in well with the background too. So that seemed to be very successful for me with this painting. So that was a good color. And if you're interested in being able to access my complete palette with the brand names and the colors I use, you can join my Patreon for $5 a month. And also I have a complete supply list of everything I use to my Patreon subscribers. So, okay, so for the eyes, my reference photo for this was beautiful, as you can see, and I really wanted to just recreate that beautiful reflection that this dog had in his eyes. And to do that, you really have to look at the tones in the eye, and it's not just dark and medium tones. There's some lighter areas too that have blues in them that are just reflecting the light, and then kind of bluish gray areas. So I really tried to focus on that and make sure that I had all my tones correct. What is tone? Lights versus dark versus medium. So just really look at your tones when you're painting these really beautiful reflections. If you are lucky enough to have a good reference photo that has really beautiful glistening eyes like this, then take advantage of it, but be careful to really get those tones correct. Same thing with the nose. You can see I'm painting the nose here, and one of the ways that I got really good texture was I would paint some color into the nose, and then I would go dab, dab, dab on top of that color to kind of smooth it out, to kind of give it some soft edges, and for it not to have such hard edges. So that was a really great way to get that nubbly texture dog noses have. Just put the watercolor down and then go while it's still wet, and it'll give it a nice little textured feel, but subtle, you know, so it really worked well for his ear, for his nose. And in his nose, the colors that I used are Naphthol Red, Burnt Sienna, and a little Winsor Violet again. And for a lot of the nose, I would wet the entire area I was working in and then put down soft areas of paint, especially in the first layers, to really get very nuanced gradations of color from light to medium to dark. So you want to keep it really soft. You don't want to have hard edges in the nose. So just keep it really soft by always working in at least damp paper when you're doing the nose. Now in the eyes, you can see I have a lot of hard edges. And as I've talked about a lot before, you want those hard edges there to draw the eye in, the viewer's eye in, to look at the animal's eye. So that's why I did that. Now, this dog has a bow tie. For the bow tie, I used Naphthol Red mostly, and then my own mix of green, which is a mix of ultramarine blue and some permanent green light. I always put in a little bit of reds to tone down that green. Most of the fur, I tried to keep it really soft. I did a lot of negative painting around the fur, and at the very beginning of the painting, I did use a lot of mask to create the waves that are in the fur. So I was very careful to create very fine lines with my masking by using a rigger that I'd rubbed in soap to keep the rigger safe, and had very nice refined lines with the masking so it didn't look too stilted. And I just kept building up the layers slowly to get the different textures of fur in his coat. So here's some little detail of me working on the bow tie. Let me talk about some of the colors that I used in the eye to recreate this beautiful glistening eye. Now when you look at a dog's eye, especially this dog's eye, what does your mind want to tell you? There's just blacks and browns in there. But use your artist eye and look a little closer at your reference photo, if you have one such as mine, and you will see some grays, you will see some blues. I did use, of course, burnt sienna, lamp black, ultramarine blue to get those dark browns and those black blacks of the eye, because they are certainly there, but I also had a lot of light blues in the eye. So I used some ultramarine blue, but in a few small areas, you don't want to overdo it, I used phthalo blue, and just a little bit, just to create that extra little touch of color in his eye that really adds a lot of life. As I've talked about in my other videos, I used a lot of very dark eyeliner to really draw the eye in to looking at his eyes. So there's a lot of hard edges in the eyes, and that is because I wanted you to really be drawn into looking at his eyes. So another thing that I did to really draw a lot of attention to the eye is I put a lot of detail in, and this dog had some really cute eyelashes. So I made sure that when I was painting inside the eye, I did a lot of negative painting around those eyelashes. You can also use mask to paint around the eyelashes, so you make sure you get those little details that will really help make your eyes stand out, to have those little details in the eyes. Right here I'm removing the mask. I'm just putting in some details of the eye, and at 1210 I'm just putting in some details of the nose, making sure that I have all those tones correct. Once again, the tones are more important to get correct than the color. So worry about your tones first, worry about your hues second. The color or the hue is not as important as getting the tones correct, especially those dark darks. If you can get the dark darks in, like especially in the nostrils, that's really going to pop that nose out and really make it shine and really make it almost feel like you could reach out and touch it. So you want to make sure that you get those tones in. And the highlights too. There's lots of highlights in noses, especially in a well photographed dog. Just like the eyes, they have some really light areas, dark areas, and then some medium tones. So you want to make sure you get all three of those tonal families in there. And also something to remember, when there is a white area in your painting, be aware that that white area is going to act like a complete magnet, sucking your viewer in. So anywhere you have white area, be very careful that you have that white area the right shape. If it's a glisten in the eye, should that glisten be in the shape of a moon? Make sure you get it right, because just know that that area is going to be scrutinized and looked at closely. So wherever you have white areas, make sure you've got them down correctly. You can fudge other areas, soften other areas, but wherever you have your whites, make sure that you get those shapes and those contours as close to perfect as you can, because just know that that's where your viewer is going to look. And also, if you're painting an animal that has a lot of white, you might not see it in your reference photo, but you need to put even a light wash over the areas that you don't want the viewer to look at. Even if the reference photo has lots of bright white areas, you want to think about, where do I want the viewer's eye to go, and just keep usually on the face, around in this area, the whitest whites, and then do a wash of light blue or light purple or whatever makes sense with your painting over the other areas, like the haunches or some part of the animal that's not as important. So just keep that in mind too. Okay, so here I'm using that ink gel pen. It's supposed to be an archival white ink pen, and putting in the little details of the fur painting at this stage of the painting, and you haven't used masked, but the client wants some white wispies in an otherwise dark painting. You've got to use white acrylic paint or gouache or a white ink pen, something like that, white Sharpie. So that's what I did, and it looked really good. I thought that it was a successful fix. And here is the Elegant Writer. This is one of the pens that sometimes I use to sign a painting. I think what works better than this, I don't really like how this signature came out. That pen is kind of drying out, and I think it would have been better for me to use a rigger with really wet paint in it. But it's okay, it looks okay, but I probably need to go ahead and chuck that particular pen because it's a little dried out. And a rigger works really great for signing your name. Leave me a comment about what you use to sign your paintings. What do you use? I'm curious to know. This commission came out really well. I was really happy with it. And I might do another video just on the eyes, because that's a whole lesson in and of itself. And I was going to do a much more detailed video on this, and it ended up being like 4 hours. So I don't think anybody wants to watch me paint for 4 hours. So if you have any specific questions about this painting, also leave them in the comment. I would love to hear from you. And I hope this video was helpful. I've got a lot more videos coming because I've gotten a lot of paintings done lately. Okay, you guys, I had fun making this video for you. I hope you guys are having a great December, a great holiday season, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Say bye-bye, kitty. Bye-bye, kitty.